If you are born in the United States and your parents or one of your parents is a Filipino or was a Filipino citizen at the time of your birth, you are considered a Filipino at birth. The problem is, none of us register our birth in the Philippines. We were born here, we get our birth certificate in the United States, then maybe we applied for US passport, you are a United States citizen. But you are also a Filipino citizen. So all you need to do is to register your birth in the Philippines. Voila! You are a Filipino citizen and you can get a Philippine passport. So let me show you how to register your birth in the Philippines. I mean, your birth in the US to the Philippine government. Stay with me. To help those people who were born in the United States with Filipino parents, you have to apply, or not apply, you have to register your birth in the Philippines, because in the Philippines you do not have a birth certificate. So how do you prove you're a Filipino citizen? So you have to submit your documentation at the Philippine Consulate Office in the United States or in a foreign country where you're residing, and register yourself that you are a qualified, a true Filipino at the time of your birth. Because in the Philippines, unlike, for example, in the United States, you become a US citizen when you are born. In the Philippines, you could be born any part of the world, you are still a Filipino if you have the Filipino blood. Okay? Now, how do you do that registration? And that's what we're going to talk about. So let me show you this slide so that you can follow through the details of how to register your birth. The report of birth is a declaration on the birth abroad of a Filipino child. Filipinos residing abroad must promptly register with the consulate office abroad the birth of a child for such a birth to be registered with the office of the Civil Registrar General in Manila. See, because at that point you don't have a birth certificate in the Philippines. When a child is born abroad to one or both parents who is Filipino citizen, that is one who has not been naturalized as a citizen of a foreign country. So, kailangan hindi pa kayo US citizen o citizen of foreign country at the time you were born. So, if you are still Filipino at the time you were born, the child's birth must be immediately reported to the Philippine Embassy or Consulate, which exercises jurisdiction over the place of birth. They say immediately, but that's a joke. Who registers? Nobody does. Okay? Now, ideally, the birth must be reported to the consulate within 12 months. That's what they say. After its occurrence, nevertheless, it may be recorded at any time upon the determination of the consular officer of satisfactory evidence on the authenticity of the report. So there will be a lot of papers or documentation that you will need to submit to prove you are a Filipino resident or a Filipino citizen. The following must be submitted: 4 original report of birth forms completed by either the following: the attending physician, the attending nurse or midwife. I haven't heard of midwife in the United States recently. It's usually attending nurse. Filipino parent or parents, if it's mother and father. The person whose birth is being reported if over 18 years of age, that means you, if you're already over 18 years of age, or the foreign parent only if none of the above accomplish the report. So let's say you have an American father and a Filipino wife. And let's say you cannot contact your mother, or your mother is deceased, then the foreign parent could do the report of birth, provided none of the above. If the above, if the A, B, C, D are available, they should be the one to do it. Otherwise, E, the foreign parent only, if none of the above can accomplish the report. And all these forms will have to be notarized. Original and 4 photocopies of child's birth certificate issued by the local health authorities or by the local country registrar. So your birth certificate in the foreign country or in the United States, original and 4 photocopies of data page of Philippine passport of Filipino parents. Okay, that is, if they have a Philippine passport, some of them may have discarded their Philippine passport. In case the Filipino parent became a naturalized citizen of another country after the child's birth, but before reporting it to the consulate, present also original and 4 photocopies of the naturalization and proof of Philippine citizenship, example, Philippine passport, birth certificate issued by the Philippines at PSA or NSO. Now, regarding this, if you were born in the olden days, like me, I still have my original certificate, which they claim is no longer valid. You will have to get it from NSO and PSA. They should have it. Okay, they should. They said they should. And by the way, this is to verify if from the time you were born in the Philippines, let's say your parents was born in the Philippines, when they were naturalized. Because if they were naturalized after you were already born, well, I have news for you. You are not qualified. You are not considered a Filipino citizen. I guess you'll have to apply for dual. Original and 4 photocopies of data page of the foreign passport or foreign driver's license of a foreign parent. These are the documentation you're required to submit. Original and 4 photocopies of father's birth certificate if father is Filipino, issued by the PSA also, or formerly NSO. By the way, some people ask me questions. If I have an old NSO, is it still valid, or should I get a PSA? No, the old NSO is still valid. Okay, they just changed the name, but what you have, if you have NSO, is still valid. Original and 4 photocopies of mother's birth certificate if mother is Filipino. The birth certificate must be issued by, again, PSA or NSO. Original and 4 photocopies of marriage certificate of parents, if applicable. If parents were married in the Philippines or their foreign marriage reported with the Philippine consulate over a year from reporting childhood, the marriage certificate must be issued by the Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA or NSO. Okay, so even marriage certificate is now recorded at PSA. The fee for the service is $25 payable in cash, postal money order, cashier's check payable to Philippine Consulate General. And you have to provide them with a priority mail envelope. It must be self-addressed and postage paid, not metered, because metered has a date on it. They want it to be undated. If the birth was reported more than 12 months after its occurrence, which is the more likely scenario, because we're not aware that it has to be reported. So most of the time, 99% of the time, it's not reported to the Philippine government. The person executing the report must provide a notarized affidavit of delayed registration, explaining the circumstances surrounding the delay. I filled out one of these for my 2 children, notarized affidavit of delay. Now, if you don't have the form, they'll have the form there and they will ask you to sign it, and then it will be notarized right there in front of you. If parents are not married and child is to bear father's name, the father must execute a notarized affidavit of paternity. They must acknowledge you're the child and use of father's surname. If parents were not married at the time of birth of the child and eventually married thereafter, a notarized joint affidavit of legitimization must be submitted. That's the first time I heard of that. After the report of birth copy is received from the consulate, that will be mailed to you, you can then apply for a Philippine passport as a first-time applicant by personal appearance at the consulate. You might say, well, don't they give me an ID so I don't have to order a passport? I don't think so. I think that is the reason why they say you can then apply for a passport. And even dual citizens, I would recommend that you apply for a passport. In some cases, it's, I guess, valid if you live far away from the so-called nearest consulate. I can see why they don't want to get a passport. But if it's convenient, listen, I live 2 hours away to New York. It's good. It's better to have a passport. For one thing, you can use, these for dual citizens now. You can use an ID to get into the Philippines, but guess what? You cannot use that ID in any foreign country because any foreign country will be looking for a passport. Then you might say, oh, gee, but I would rather use my US passport because it's more accepted worldwide, more accepted than Philippine passport. I'm not sure, well, that is true for the most part, but there may be some advantages. For example, I don't know if Americans are still forbidden from going to Cuba, or if Cuba will still accept a US passport, but they may accept a Philippine passport. So there could be advantages. Plus, number two, it's more convenient to carry. You have that, but remember, never, just like your US naturalization papers, the citizenship papers, you have to save that for life. Do not lose it. Don't throw it away. Same thing with your dual citizenship paper. Put it in a safe place and make sure you preserve it. But when you're traveling, you just carry your Philippine passport, and that should be much more than adequate than if you're carrying a dual citizenship papers. Now, in the Philippines, do they acknowledge that? If they say, do you need an ID or do you have an ID? Will they acknowledge that? I don't know, because some of them may not be aware of what a dual citizenship ID is, but they will accept a Philippine passport as an identification. Many other advantages. So if you can conveniently get it, get it. Okay, these for duals. Okay, because I guess for this so-called delayed registration of birth, you have to get a passport because that's the only ID to show that you are a Philippine citizen. Okay, so I hope this helped you out, and do share it with other people. And hey, I will appreciate it if you click like down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to answer. Ask, answer too if you can. And I'll be more than happy to answer most questions. And do share this with other people. And I'll appreciate it if you subscribe if you have not done so yet. Thank you very much, and make it a great day.